Hello, my spooky people. Are you ready for a story? Connie, written by Sapphire Lion 15. As strange as it sounds, I hadn't really wanted the doll at first. I mean, I was 7. According to Dad, I was too old for dolls. But as my aunt put it, Dad wasn't worth listening to on his best day. So I kept the doll and named her Connie. Connie was a pretty typical doll. Her arms, legs, and head were made of plastic. Her body was stuffed with cotton. She had long, loose, dark hair, and she wore an ankle-length red dress and black Mary Jane-style shoes. Not a Barbie or American Girl, but still well-made and fairly adorable. She even spoke when you squeezed her stomach. She had 3 different sayings: "I love you," "What do you want to do?" and a light-hearted giggle. Despite my initial dislike, she won me over fairly quickly. I mean, I didn't have anyone else to play with. Mom, Dad, and I lived in a trailer park for most of my early childhood. Mom worked as a bartender at a club, and Dad worked as a mall cop. Although I didn't know this at the time, Mom was an alcoholic and spent most evenings passed out on the couch. Dad wasn't an alcoholic, but he wasn't perfect. He was opinionated, to put it gently. If anyone had an opinion that he didn't agree with, he would shout or fight that person until they agreed with him. It was this little habit of his that had gotten him fired from the CPD and landed us in the trailer park, a little fact that my grandma shared with me later. I wouldn't call my parents abusive. At least they didn't hit me or starve me or anything, but they weren't very attentive. I can remember times when they wouldn't be home until past my bedtime, or times when they didn't get groceries until the fridge was literally empty, or once when I was stuck at school until 4 hours after it ended, because neither of them picked me up. And yes, Dad yelled at me for little things like spilling drinks or slamming doors. But I still loved them. Does that sound crazy? Anyway, my 7th birthday came and went. I expected my parents to take me to dinner, and they didn't. I expected cake and presents. None appeared. I expected them to acknowledge the day. Never happened. After school ended, the Friday after my birthday, my aunt picked me up and took me to a little pizza place in the city for a late birthday celebration. Just the 2 of us. That's where she gave me Connie, and if I'm being honest, that's when things started getting weird. Before I continue this story, let me explain something. My aunt, although I wasn't told this until later, had been trying to get custody of me for years. The fact that I was already living with my biological parents and that there was no evidence of them abusing/neglecting me kept her from succeeding. Practically every member of my family knew that I didn't have a great home life, and they had been trying to get me out of my parents' custody for years. Tells you a lot about the justice system, doesn't it? Anyway, on to the story. After my initial hesitance, I fell in love with Connie. I carried her everywhere except school, and played with her every second I could. She became something to comfort me when Dad was yelling or Mom was drinking. A reminder that I wasn't alone. It must have been a week after my pizza party with my aunt that Dad lost his job. He came home, chugged a bottle of Mom's whiskey, and slammed the bottle into the garbage. I had been watching after-school TV with Connie, and the sound of shattering glass made me jump. He rolled around and saw me, or rather, he saw me holding Connie. "What the hell is this?" He picked Connie up by the leg, dangling her out of my reach. Her dress and hair dangled down towards the floor, but she was still smiling. I stood up, trying not to cry, and explained that Aunt Judy had given it to me as a birthday present. He stared at me, as if trying to remember when my birthday was. Then, as if remembering that, yes, it had been my birthday over a week ago, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a quarter. He handed me the coin and Connie, and wished me a half-hearted happy birthday. Tears staining my face, I ran for my room. I laid on my bed, crying silently into my pillow. He'd scared me. He'd scared me so bad. I looked up when I was finished to see Connie sitting at the foot of my bed. I picked her up and squeezed her stomach.
"Your daddy is mean. What do you want to do?"
I paused. I hadn't heard her say that before. Still, I always felt better after talking to her. "Daddy always yells. I wish he'd stop." I pushed her middle again.
"I love you. I want what's best for you."
Another new phrase, I thought. "I wish I could live with Aunt Judy. She never yells for no reason, and she's nice." I squeezed Connie again.
"I love Judy, and I love you. I hate Mommy, and I hate Daddy. What do you want to do?"
Had she always been able to say these things? I'd never seen her box. Maybe she could. I answered her question. "I wish they would go away." I squeezed her again. She giggled. As weird as it sounds, I felt much better after I talked to Connie. Holding her tight, I went to see if Dad was still mad. He wasn't. He had a half-empty bottle in his hand and was laying on the couch asleep. I crept out of my room, grabbed a bottled water and a sleeve of saltines from the kitchen, and went back into my room. Connie and I had a picnic on my bedroom floor, and then went to bed. I could hear Mom and Dad yelling at each other as I tried to sleep. Eventually, I did. I woke up at about 3 in the morning. Instead of their yelling dying out and ending as they went to bed like it usually did, this time it had intensified. They were screaming obscenities at each other, him yelling about her drinking, and her screaming about his losing jobs, seeing other women. Then something weird happened. Dad said something along the lines of, "The duck?" That's when the screaming resumed, but it was so much louder this time, almost as if they were in intense pain. For 30 minutes they screamed. It scared me so much worse than their normal fighting, and I hid under the covers until it stopped. It was around that time that I noticed that Connie had fallen on the floor. I picked her up. She was still comforting. I darted under the covers again when I heard police sirens. I heard the sound of someone breaking down the door. There were muffled voices that I didn't recognize, and the sound of heavy boots marching through the trailer. I started weeping silent tears as the door to my room opened. The blanket was ripped off of my bed. I looked with terror into the eyes of a policewoman. "Miss, what's your name?" Laurie Manchester?" I hugged Connie closer to me. "And this is Connie." "Okay, we need to get you out of here. Listen carefully. I need you to cover your eyes and not look until I say so, okay?" "Okay." I squeezed my eyes shut and put my right hand over my eyes. I hugged Connie close to me with my left. The policewoman held my shoulder, guiding me through the trailer and out the front door. Though I couldn't see anything, everything felt very off. The other police officers stopped talking as I entered the room, but I smelled something weird, like metal. And why was the floor wet and sticky? I wasn't allowed to open my eyes until we were outside. They had surrounded the trailer with yellow police tape. I was led into the back of the police cruiser after the officer promised that I wasn't under arrest, and we sped away. I never saw the trailer park again. We went straight to the police station. I told them everything. They told us at school to always tell the truth to a police officer. They seemed interested in Mom's drinking and Dad's yelling. They were really interested in Connie saying things she wasn't supposed to. They asked if they could see Connie. I knew I could trust the police. That's what they said at school, so I let them see her. They took her into another room. After a long time, they brought her back. She felt a lot lighter, but she could still talk. They started asking me a lot of questions about Aunt Judy. After that night at the police station, I went to live with my grandma. She lived in an actual house, never drank or yelled, and loved to cook. She told me that my parents were dead, and tried her best to shield me from the truth of what happened that night. Over the years, however, through the news and kids at school, I eventually learned the full story. Aunt Judy had hidden a microphone in Connie, trying to get as much evidence as she could on my parents. Those weird new phrases Connie had said were actually my aunt talking to me. Apparently, she'd been out of her medication for a while, and our conversation had given her an idea. That night, she climbed into the trailer through my parents' bedroom window. Their yelling had drowned out the noise. She then proceeded to torture them to death with various tools from the kitchen. The neighbors had heard the screaming and called the cops. As disturbing as the story was, the murder wasn't the scariest part. My aunt, now convinced that she could be my legal guardian, had been ready to kidnap me and run away when the police pulled up. They found her fingerprints all over the crime scene and the microphone in Connie. She had retreated the way she came and had cleared her belongings and fled her apartment by the time the police got there. They still haven't found her. Thanks for listening to this story with me, lovelies. Remember to watch for the giveaway I'll be doing for a custom mug when I reach 100 subscribers. Have a good one, everyone. Love, the Mistress.